That's Delightful,
a member of the Pod Bros Network.
Welcome to That's Delightful. Online at facebook.com/That's Delightful. Now time for That's Delightful.
So Kelly and I had this idea because when we were listening to Two Grumpy Critics on the way home, at the end, they give the copyright 2018. So Kelly and I were thinking maybe we should do that too, and tell them why, Kelly.
Because I would really love for us to get ripped off by some like Indonesian like copycat podcast and have them like perform scripts of our podcast.
So we're hoping that maybe in Micronesia or Indonesia, someone decides that this is going to be a fun podcast to translate into their native tongue.
Please steal our intellectual property.
We need to make something that says, that's delightful, totallydelightfulstuff.com, copyright 2018.
Or we could just say it. Does that count?
Should we have Emily say it?
Should we have like a
Sean
whole
has
disclaimer?
Been begging.
Oh, we need to have all of them say a little thingy.
Should we have like a total disclaimer of like the property, intellectual property, et cetera, on That's Delightful? It belongs to That's Delightful and no one else. Copyright 2018.
The word fuckweasel is not to be repeated by anyone not involved with That's Delightful. Without the express written consent of That's Delightful.
Swift and deliberate legal action will be taken if you do anything of this nature.
All right, now say it in Spanish.
No.
Do you think that people in Mexico would not want to rip off our podcast?
I don't think people. Well, I don't know. We make fun of Trump a lot.
People are clamoring for what we got.
That's what I'm saying. Cover all of our bases.
It's a cross-cultural. I mean, when you have three white people covering topics of politics and privilege, you really have something special, and everybody wants it.
Everyone wants to break off a piece of TD.
It's the least woke podcast probably out there.
Come get your news a week after it happened.
A week after it happened and through the filter of some pretty privileged white people.
All right, so what do we have? We have Trump Mueller Cohen. We have Trump paying people off. We have Trump Russia. Paul Ryan retiring. What else do we want to talk about? Is there anything else we want to jam in there?
The name of the Facebook congressional hearings, which I'm sorry.
I didn't really follow him that close.
I still don't
understand.
Right. Well, my whole thing is like you get that you're on Facebook, right? Like you know that they are literally taking your information and making money off of it.
A marketing site use your information for marketing?
Yes. Where do you think Mark Zuckerberg got all of his money?
It's not from Facebook being free, that's for sure.
Right. So let's just like not pretend. Google does it too, just so you know. I hate to be the spoiler.
No shit. On our website. Hi, you know what? Let's put it out there. So that all of our cards are on the table. On our website, we have a code called Google Analytics, and I can big brother the hell out of our website. I can find out the ages and the areas in which people live, what they are most commonly interested in. It's not rocket science. They track your shit, and we get some of that. Right. We don't know how to use it, so I never look at it, but we get it. Yeah. That's what Facebook did. It's
actually capitalism. That's the whole point of capitalism that everybody wants, that they hate socialism and communism, which are not interchangeable. That's basically the premise.
People are up in arms because they signed up for Facebook and on a daily basis share their entire life story with everybody that's on their friends list through Facebook. And now they're like, whoa. How did Facebook know that about me?
So I was thinking about this the other day, and I think if maybe this is just a hazard of being born in a generation of technological advances, because I mean, in theory, when you think about it, we should have privacy. These things should be private. Yes, we make the choice to put it out there, but I think because we've become so conditioned to just having all of our information readily available to steal on the internet, it's not a big deal.
I love that people talk conspiracy theories about it. I bet you they get it like this. No, you took a quiz where they showed you a picture of a Big Mac and a Whopper and said, which one of these would you eat? And you clicked on one.
Right.
And then it told you which Office character you were. Yeah. You're an asshole.
You said Whopper, now you're getting Burger King ads. Go fucking figure. Hey, let me ask this question too. Because, like you said, you should be able to expect a certain amount of privacy. But when we talk about our privacy as Americans and what should and should not be shared... America. Are we talking about privacy of our information from public entities? Because Facebook is not a public entity. Facebook is a company on the internet that you have to sign up for to use their service.
Facebook is people.
And this goes back to what I talked about last week. No, the First Amendment doesn't apply to corporations. I mean, you're not protected. Free speech is not protected from corporations. And neither is the right to privacy. I mean, but there were, where it gets a little sketchy is a lot of comparisons are being made to like Snowden and, when the NSA was using cell phones to get personal information on people. And also there's a lot of this that ties into the Russia investigation and how they use the information to basically install Donald Trump as a leader in the country. So that's where it gets to be like, okay, but here's the thing. People are stupid en masse and they fall for it. And like you said, you really needed to find out what nacho you were.
Are there different kinds of nachos?
There's probably the blue corn tortilla, the black corn tortilla.
I'm the nacho with a jalapeno slice on every chip.
I am the flour tortilla nacho.
I'm the new triple melt nacho special at Taco Bell.
Are we ready to get episode 55 started?
Oh, have we not?
Yes, start recording now.
I thought we've been talking.
We've knocked out a topic already.
Facebook.com/That's Delightful. I don't think this Facebook conversation deserves any more of our time, right? It's kind of a stupid conversation, isn't it?
No, if you sign the user... No, the best thing ever, though, I don't know if you saw it, was the video of the old people interviewing Mark Zuckerberg about data. It was the best thing ever because they were like Orrin Hatch, who's 915
Fucking
years
Orrin
old.
Hatch.
So Orrin Hatch is like, well, do you have a disclaimer anywhere saying that people were going to have their data breached? And he's like, well, yeah. I mean, it's part of the terms and conditions that you sign for. Where are people supposed to authorize this? And you could see like the actual internal struggle on Mark Zuckerberg's face to not be like, I don't understand why you don't get this.
The panel was old as fuck. And I think it was Stephen Colbert that tweeted out, I feel bad for Mark Zuckerberg because after this, he probably has to set up each and every one of their Wi-Fi connections too for him. So also, Mark Zuckerberg had to sit on a booster seat.
That's
Anybody else see that?
I did not.
Why?
Because he's fucking short. The
Is
dude's
he?
like 5'6". So they gave him a booster seat.
He doesn't know how to not look like an alien from another planet.
No, he
either.
really doesn't.
Well,
He doesn't look like a human
Was
in
it
any
you that
way.
was talking about that? That he's weird about controlling his facial expressions because he's really into behavioral psychology. So he
What?
likes to, he's constantly monitoring the expressions that he makes because he thinks it doesn't matter, micro expressions or they're before your face is even cognizant of what you're thinking.
He is very deliberate in his answers, though. He is very deliberate, controlled, concise. Everything that he answered was with, Senator, I think what you're referring to is, or Senator, I think the answer to your question is more complex than just a yes or a no. He was respectful. He still sounded like a robot. I still, in my heart of hearts, feel that Jesse Eisenberg does a better job of playing Mark Zuckerberg than Mark Zuckerberg does of playing Mark Zuckerberg. But you could see how Jesse Eisenberg nailed Mark Zuckerberg in the social network because you could tell that there was just a tremendous amount of contempt and want in Mark Zuckerberg to be like, you have literally earned 0% of my attention right now.
So one of my favorite memes ever that has come out of this is like a picture of Mark Zuckerberg's face, like you said, because he looks like a little alien.
Mm-hmm.
So the picture of his face, and it just says like my face when all I wanted to do is create a better way to rate women in undergrad, and now I've installed a dictator. It's funny.
All right. Again, Facebook.com/That's Delightful. Online, TotallyDelightfulStuff.com. Patreon.com/That's Delightful. And on Twitter, @DelightfulCast. Is it time to rip off our Trump Band-Aid for the week? We start, okay, I mean, where do we start? Do we start with Trump taking
Nuclear
this war
war
with Russia? Do we start with the Trump Mueller investigation? Do we start with Trump, who might have a love child out there, and one of the doormen from his old tower was paid off by the Inquirer to not speak?
He's had the Inquirer in his pocket for decades.
He's besties with the owner.
Yeah.
But they also said that, I mean, I don't know how, I'm not a Trump trainer, obviously, but I don't know how reliable the source is if he refuses to do an interview without getting paid. I'm just kind of like,
Well, the Inquirer's owner, David Packer, paid this guy $30,000 to get exclusive rights to a story and then buried it.
Right.
And
But
so
then
he's-
Newsweek wanted to sit down and talk to him, and he refused unless they paid him.
Well, the Inquirer has exclusive rights. I don't think he can talk to him.
No, he can. If he refused, it wasn't that he couldn't or he said, well, I can't. It was when he
Outright
found
refused.
out that we would not pay him, he refused to sit down for an interview.
Now, I know that they're not admissible in court and it's not a huge deal, but he did reportedly pass a lie detector test back when he was trying to sell his story to the Inquirer. So there may or may not be some validity to it, but Trump could quite possibly have a love child out there that a doorman was paid $30,000 not to mention.
I don't think that shit is going to be surprising. It's kind of like Facebook has, takes your data. So I don't think it's that surprising because he's had how many affairs? I mean, his first marriage.
None. He said none. So
His first marriage was ended through his affair with Marla Maples, who had a child with him and whose marriage with him was ended after he met Melania. So, he's got a history.
he's like Newt Gingrich.
Right. And then there's Tiffany,
Now
who
that's a
nobody even cares
fuckweasel.
about.
Is this presidency almost like the WWE where nothing surprises you anymore? It's kind of like the WWE where they're like, oh, wow, he climbed a 10-foot tall ladder and then jumped on the guy and now he's bleeding. I'm shocked that never happens in the WWE.
Well, did you see the interview where Seth Meyers interviewed John Oliver?
What?
And it was funny. And Seth Meyers says, now, does it surprise you that Trump, and John Oliver just said no.
It could
Whatever happens after that, no.
You guys, I wish you would come watch John Oliver with me Sunday nights because it's appointment viewing. It's
We love
just the
John
best.
Oliver.
Oh, you guys! I guess you guys find ways to watch it, huh?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what
You have
time does it come
access
on
to all
Sunday
the
night?
things. I don't know. I tape it and watch it around 8 usually.
Around 8?
Tape
Okay.
it?
And I watch
Do
Silicon
you
Valley.
do EP? Or
Yeah, I broke the
LP?
tabs off of my John Oliver tapes so that they're kept for. I have it on extended long play though, so it's a little grainy.
Celebrate the entire collection. I've got 10 John Olivers per cassette.
And it encapsulates all the fun little commercials and bumpers in between so that 10 years from now I can look back and remember when Silicon Valley was in its twilight years.
Or when the Pepsi commercial where they came down in the space capsule. Never mind. I remember that.
I can't stop thinking about Gadget from the Rescue Rangers, and I need you guys to help me move into Trump land. I don't know what that is about. Wasn't she hot?
a
Did you guys ever
really
watch Rescue
weird thing
Rangers?
to be talking
I know.
about.
It just popped into my head.
I know exactly
The
who you're
mouse?
talking
Did you
about.
crush on Gadget when she was
The mouse.
the girl mouse
Yeah.
with the purple jumpsuit
No.
and all the gadgets?
So when Rescue Rangers was out was right when we were starting to hit puberty. And
It was a formative
I know.
time.
It's a very odd time when you don't want to get a boner to a cartoon, but your body also has like zero control.
So I
Yeah.
kind of understand Laura Croft when everybody was getting a boner to Laura
No,
Croft. I
she
don't
was,
understand.
she was a bunch of octagons, like a bunch of hexagonal.
Laura Croft?
Yeah, the Tomb Raider games in their infancy, the graphics were very poor. So she was buxom, but it was all sharp angles and
So
edges.
what does
Gadget,
the mouse do?
well, at a time when there weren't very strong role models for
you want me to
young
help you
girls,
transition?
she was a scientist. She worked with gadgets.
Do you want me
hence
to
the nickname?
Do you want me to help you?
Yeah.
So in Louisiana,
Are you gonna make me stop liking Gadget?
no.
Okay.
In Louisiana, a bill was passed the other day. I think it was 62 to 10 against bestiality. So
Why are you being fucking weird about it?
So here's my thing, though. Who were the 10 that voted in favor of bestiality?
Oh, this is gonna help. Thank you. Who was it?
No one knows.
People.
what she's saying is, if you want to take this to a really dark place, what she's saying is,
In Louisiana, there are people who
we can
support you.
explore our love for her. It doesn't have to stop on this podcast in California.
I'm really glad we talked about this, guys. Thank you. Thank you.
You really got to get it out there. Hey, so Trump is taking us to war with Russia through Syria. Is that about what's happening right now?
Well, we've been fighting with Russia through other countries for decades, so that's not new. But
He is fucking with us. He's
Which
trying to
one?
change the narrative from the Mueller investigation. His lawyer's house got raided, and a lot of privileged information was taken, and he's freaking the fuck out. So he is. The first thing he did was that he tweeted and said, "Hey Russia, missiles are coming, smart ones. So get ready."
They'll be
After which
swift
Russia
and
spent
big and
the
smart.
they spent 24 hours like moving out their equipment from these sensitive locations. I mean, he basically did the thing that he's been yelling at Obama about all through the campaign. And even before that, he said, Obama totally tipped off our strategy. That's right about treason. You could never do that. And then first thing he does is tweet, hey, we're shooting missiles at you coming right up.
Right. I want people to understand that there's going to be a fucking nuclear war started over Twitter. People get mad when you get broken up with through text. We're talking about world annihilation over Twitter.
But the thing is, he did that, and it grabbed all the headlines for a day, and that's all we talked about. We stopped talking about his lawyer and about what they may have found in there.
Yes.
And then today he said, well, we don't know. All options are on the table. We're not sure what we're going to do. Stay tuned, America. And it's going to be a bunch of nothing. They might shoot a couple missiles. And then I wouldn't be surprised if it's scripted with Russia because there's collusion. I don't know if you guys heard.
No, I suspect it's just scary because you don't know. It feels very much is this real or is it not?
He is a big ball of id, and he's fired everybody who kept him in check. So now he's tweeting whatever comes into his skull. He's trying to micromanage through Twitter and Fox News everything that happens in the country. He's trying to divert the people's attention from the stuff he doesn't want them to see.
So two things then. One, I want to know why through Twitter's terms of service you can't threaten violence, and he's threatening an entire country, but this is okay with Twitter.
Fucking A, right?
If I put on Twitter...
I know, and it's the most realistic threat that's there.
Right.
We should all get... I don't have a Twitter account. Well, I might have a Twitter account that I've never tweeted on. But we should all...
Cast on Twitter, by the way.
Oh, yeah. We should go on and say, hey, Syria, we're going to shoot missiles at you. Here they come.
And see if the
see if
FBI
they
knocks
ban
down our
us.
door.
If you put on Facebook that you think the president should be murdered or assassinated, you don't even say that you want to do it. You just think he should be assassinated. The Secret Service. Was that your phone?
No!
Oh!
Fuck! You activated it, though, by saying Syria. You said Syria, so you activated my phone.
Yeah, your phone wasn't
not
turned down.
me.
Let's be fair, Kelly. Let's talk about the reality.
My volume is off. You activated Syria.
No.
You said
phone
Syria.
is possessed.
You said Syria.
Your phone is possessed.
It took a year.
I didn't do it.
Your phone wasn't turned down. You did.
It's off. The volume is off. If I say...
Siri's not off. You got to shut that up.
Hey, Siri.
She's voice recognition, too.
See? Yeah, she heard you say...
But she is...
found this on the web for seasoned voice recognition.
Motherfuckers.
She's
this is on Siri
got
and Ian.
voice recognition.
Say it again. Say, hey, Siri.
Hey, Siri. See? Doesn't
Told
want
you.
anything. Yeah.
Try
It's
one more
voice
time.
recognition.
Try one more time.
Hey, Siri. Syria.
Hey, fuck.
See? Look at that. Look at
God
that.
damn it.
It took a year.
There goes my moral high ground. It was the last one I had.
Kelly's phone finally went
God
off.
damn it.
All right. So anyway, what I was saying was we could say that we think the president should be assassinated, and we'll have Secret Service knocking on our door saying, we need to talk to you for a little bit, and we violate terms of service, etc. Trump can get on there and say, we need to bomb Syria, and Twitter's like, cool, it got like 1 million retweets. We're making money right now.
Well, to be fair, the FBI is trying to interview Trump, and Mueller's trying to interview him, and he's just saying no. So maybe we should try that when they come talk to us.
It could also be that Twitter is just letting Trump hang himself. Let's give him all the rope. Eventually, he's going to hang himself.
You think Twitter is letting Trump, because all of these social media sites, all of tech basically is kind of that nerdy left lean. So you think Twitter right now is just kind of saying, do your thing, Trump, do your thing. We'll see what happens.
I think they've gotten so much backlash in the past because after that whole, when they started shutting down fake accounts, conservatives lost half of their followers. So they think rather than understanding that it's because they're targeting conservatives, they think that Twitter has an agenda against conservatives. I think that they're just being super cautious and not, they don't want to keep getting the rap that they're going after.
Trump is going to end us up in a nuclear war, either by accident or I had this thought, I think I posted this on Facebook, but I woke up in like middle of the night and the TV had stayed on and they were talking about him threatening to bomb people. And it occurred to me that like the nuclear bombs that we have, it's like a big red shiny button. And we've basically put Trump in a room and told him, don't touch that big red shiny button that makes the cool explosions. And it seems to me that in his head, I think he'll feel like he had a failed presidency if he doesn't launch a nuke at some point. Like, that's got to be the ultimate goal for him, is sometime before he goes, he's launching one of them nukes. He's not pushing.
Yeah, this guy's in his early 70s. Like, he's on the back nine of his life.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, with the exception of I've got children and I don't want them to die. Like,
Yes,
what does he really have to lose?
He wants to have the greatest presidency, and what's the one thing that nobody's done except for that one time?
Since World War II, we have not dropped or fired any sort of nuclear or atomic weapon.
I really have this feeling that in his head, he may not even realize it consciously, but he feels that pull to like push that button, open that suitcase.
Right, because it is. I mean, he's talked about it the whole fucking time.
It's like the ultimate like ejaculation all over the world.
Why we got all these nukes? Why don't we use them? I mean, he's been saying that. Why don't we?
That's bad, okay?
So here's my. But like
Mutually assured destruction, okay?
you literally have no foresight at all, because I mean, you should be able. Even the fucking computer in war games, that was 1985. The computer in war games could predict what would happen if we fired off a nuclear weapon.
Do you want to play a game?
Global thermonuclear war.
What's the name of the game? Was it
It's
Joshua?
called
Joshua.
Yeah, the name of the program.
Even the
Joshua.
program Joshua knew that there was no winner in a nuclear war.
Right.
Trump didn't see that movie.
That's
That was
true.
around the time when people like him were watching Wall Street, you know?
That's right. Or meatballs.
Or Meatball. I could see that.
Porky's 3: The Revenge.
Well, he was a big shark fan, so Jaws. Jaws 4.
Jaws 3D. He was seeing Jaws 3D for the 8th time.
So in the midst of all this, of course, is the Mueller investigation, and I wanted you to recount or retell the story that you told us before we started the podcast about what Trump allegedly did to sort of divert attention, co-sign the firing of Mueller.
So Trump is the first to brag about how he has cooperated fully with the Mueller investigation, that they have systematically cooperated, and they've been very patient. I think he really wants to paint this picture like, all right, we let you have your shot at us. It's time to stop playing these games. But what happened this week was that Mueller, it wasn't even the Mueller investigation. They passed on information related to the Stormy Daniels case that they came across, and it was a little too far outside the scope of what they were looking at. So they passed it on to the FBI. The FBI got a warrant, and they invaded a hotel room and the home of Michael Cohen, the lawyer for Trump. And you could see Trump right after that. He was in a room full of people that were grown-ups, but he couldn't stop talking about how messed up this was. You could see beads of sweat on his forehead. The guy was freaking out because he knows they got some shit now on him. So he is now, I mean, it feels like a very quick run-up now to him trying to fire Mueller. He really wants to put an end to all this. He doesn't want him to keep finding little nuggets of information about the things that he's done. So outwardly, he tweeted, we've cooperated with the Mueller investigation. I could fire him if I want to, but I'm not gonna. And behind the scenes, what they were just reporting today is that while he was tweeting that, he was contacting some of his people that go on the Fox News shows and telling them to go on and call for him to fire Mueller and put an end to this, to say that the charade is over and it's all done. So that Trump could then point to Fox News and say, look, people are asking me to fire Mueller.
Many people are saying.
All the people, if you watch the news, all the people are saying we should fire Mueller, end this witch hunt.
Many people are saying I should fire Mueller.
So does anybody else remember the graphic on Fox News that they also played that showed that they're like the least trusted network?
It flashed for like a second.
So you have Trump like pulling these puppet strings. I think he thinks he's like very brilliant the way he does this, but you can see all of the strings being pulled as they're happening. So he's tweeting about how patient he's been. He's contacting people behind the scenes and putting them on Fox News. And then he tweeted, hey, everybody, make sure you watch Hannity at 9 o'clock tonight. Big show. And sure enough, that night on Hannity, the people came on and said, Trump should fire Mueller, It's kind of sad. You can kind of see him. It's like when one of my kids lies to me and I saw the thing they did, and they're sitting there making up an elaborate story, and I'm like, dude, should I tell you that I saw you doing it, or?
Well, I just want to know, does Mueller know, or not Mueller, does Hannity know that he's a little punk bitch?
Yes.
Do you think,
the answer to that question is yes.
Like, does he know that he's just a little punk bitch?
Yeah, I would use a Game of Thrones comparison, but it would fall.
I don't get it.
You guys wouldn't care. There's a character who used to have a lot of swagger and promise, and he got captured and over years of torture, and he went through some pretty bad stuff, and then he pretty much just became a errand boy for the bad guys. So that's pretty much
You're just a
Hannity.
little punk bitch. Like, that's all nobody will ever respect you. You'll
Yeah.
never do anything. You're the Fredo. You're Fredo.
Yeah.
Know that.
Little Hannity Fredo.
I'm smart.
I completely, once we started talking about Game of Thrones, I just totally.
I
checked
talked
out.
about Game of Thrones for all of 9 seconds.
You know what? Best nap I ever had.
So, anywho, right now they're kind of staging, the Republicans are staging a setup, and don't get me wrong, Democrats are walking into it, I think they're making it easier for Trump to fire Mueller and blaming it on the Democrats, because right now there's a bill before the House or the Senate Judiciary Committee, and Dianne Feinstein and I forgot his first name, Grassley, Republican senator. Thank you. I wanted to say that, but then I was like, maybe I'm wrong. Anyway, so Chuck Grassley and Dianne Feinstein have been reported to be enemies ever since she decided to release all of the information in the memos. And so Chuck Grassley, when the Democrats introduced this bill to protect Mueller's position, apparently they wanted to talk about it. The Republicans wanted to talk about it. Dianne Feinstein says she doesn't trust them. She thinks they're going to add and amend to it, which I can totally see happening. But now it's in a position where they're saying, well, it's not unreasonable to want to discuss this. So if anybody's going to kill it, it's going to be because Dianne Feinstein couldn't play ball. And now that's where we're at, posturing towards Mueller's protection. But don't worry, because Paul Ryan says he was assured by the White House.
Paul Ryan, the guy who is now going to not be seeking re-election. Paul Ryan,
Speaker
our
of the
basic
House.
bro.
Sounds like somebody that I used to know, but I can't quite remember what he did.
Oh, you know Paul Ryan. We lifted weights together that one time when he wore a red hat. and
Oh,
told us
yeah.
how much
He was
loved
playing
Limp
Rage
Bizkit.
Against the Machine in the
Yeah, I was
background.
going to
Yeah.
say he was raging against the machine.
That's right. Fuck. My memory's so
Yeah,
bad.
Paul Ryan was assured that Trump will not fire Mueller. And Paul Ryan has also announced that he will not be seeking re-election in November 2018.
Paul Ryan is that fresh-faced young lad who came to Washington promising to revise the tax code and eradicate
within
all of
months
the
of doing it.
deficits, and then instead gave a bunch of tax cuts to wealthy corporations that will add to our deficit in the trillions over the next several years.
Let's cover what has happened with that tax bill. Paul Ryan has actually come out and said, okay, so maybe the bill gives too much protection against corporations, but hey, it's something, is what he said.
It is a thing that happened. Yes. Thank you, Paul.
So he admitted that the money doesn't protect the middle class, or the tax bill doesn't protect the middle class, and it actually favors corporations.
But
he
surely
still
it
passed
takes
it.
away from the deficit over time, doesn't it? That
No,
was his one
you know
goal.
what they're doing now? What I
that?
love is Trump is now talking about making the people on welfare work even harder than they do. Bear in mind, research has shown that most of the people on welfare receiving SNAP or TANF are actually the working poor. So,
And some welfare recipients are now going to be subject to drug tests.
which is, oh my fucking God, these people do not understand research. It's a waste of fucking money is what it is.
This the same Paul Ryan who was very outspoken against Trump until Trump got the nomination?
Oh, he's been outspoken and then totally for, and then outspoken and then totally for.
He was for it before he was against it? No, he was against it before he was for it.
Yes, and then he was for it, and then he was against what he said that time, but then he came back for it, and then...
Was he one of those who said, I couldn't look my daughter in the face?
Yes, he was. And then he did.
And
now he's going to go home, spend more time with his family, presumably without looking at his daughter ever again.
Okay, let me ask you this. then.
Sure.
All shittiness aside, because we've been pretty shitty to Paul Ryan on this show. Not
Fuck
that he's
Paul
noticed.
Ryan.
But do you think that his decision to not seek re-election could have anything to do with the fact that maybe, because like you said with the tax code, he came out and said, yeah, this is actually a pretty unfair tax code. We gave a lot of cuts.
He didn't say unfair. He just
Oh,
said...
No, he didn't
okay,
say
you're right.
fair.
Do you think that maybe he had a stroke of conscience and decided like the only way he can get out of this mess is to just not be a part of it anymore?
No.
I thought you were saying maybe he had a stroke and you should have stopped there.
That would have been more appropriate than a stroke.
Because at least he had a consistent ideology. It was fiscal responsibility. He had this whole shtick when he came to Washington that he was going to go line by line and fix the budget, take out all the pork, take out all the extra stuff, and save us the money that we were spending extra every year. And he completely sold out his own ideology. Everything that made him the darling of the Republican Party in the first place went away, and he sold out to Trump.
That's what I'm saying. Do you think maybe he had?
No.
You don't think that's possible
No,
at all?
I think he understands that he's going to lose. I mean, he was expected to lose. And
you think he would lose to Iron Stash?
Not necessarily to Iron Stash. There are other candidates in the area. Sadly, people will go with the name that they know. So if the Democrats pump enough money behind Iron Stash, then yeah, he'll probably win now. Because people know the name, they recognize it, so they'll go with what they recognize.
Iron Stash,
and plus we're gonna keep pumping him up on
Iron
this
Stash.
podcast. We're gonna reach dozens.
I don't know. There's a really good woman of color in that district that's also running on the ticket, and she's actually educated and.
Is that what it's going to say on the ballot? Vote woman of color, 2018.
Yeah.
Honey, I don't know. Do we go Iron Stash or woman of color?
So,
is Iron Stash not a man of color?
I don't know. Maybe let's put another fucking white dude
Hey,
in Congress.
you're the one who loved Iron
again.
Stash first.
I do
I
love
wouldn't have
Iron
even
Stash.
known about Iron Stash.
You brought Iron Stash to the forefront.
He's amazing. So don't get me wrong. I'm just saying there are other options. It doesn't have to be Iron Stash.
It can
there
be
are
woman
other
of color.
options.
When we get squirrely, I keep my
I'm gonna
Facebook
punch you in
page
the
up
face.
on when we're doing our podcast. I keep my Facebook page up so that when you guys start to get squirrely, I can just stare at my banner of the Goo Goo Dolls performing at the Shoreline Amphitheater and take myself to a better place.
When you say squirrely, what does that mean? How
Like
are we squirrely?
squirrely is, I think, maybe different.
We
than
start
what you're
talking
using
faster and
Yeah.
or thinking about.
It's all phenomenal conversation, but then it starts to go a little over my head, and I look down at Johnny.
That's probably a pretty good indicator of how people listening to this podcast feel. Well, you should probably tell us, like, I'm Goo Goo Dolling right now.
If Ian doesn't know what we're
heads up.
talking
No, I
about,
know
then no
people.
one does.
I know people.
I know people
like
who
it.
tune in for the up to the minute banter about the political topics.
Ian's our dumb barometer.
Okay, I don't like this.
I think the two of us, Michelle and I, have the capacity to go up our own asses, politically speaking.
Nobody
carry on a
goes
little
up
bit.
my ass. I could tell you that.
I
right
was
now.
not. I beg your pardon, madam.
That's delightful.
I would-
Staying out of asses.
Another line in the stand.
Staying out of Michelle's ass since 2017.
All right. So you don't think that Iron Stash is necessarily going to win? Because as soon as Paul Ryan announced that he wasn't going to run in November, Iron Stash's social media, Randy Bryce, his social media is on point, by the
Yeah,
way.
no, he does a good job.
He does a really good job. And
he's a steel worker, and he's an everyday man, and I think that's going to work. But I also think he's going to get run over really quickly in Congress.
As soon as Paul Ryan announced that he wasn't going to be running, Iron Stash said, "We did it. We repealed Paul Ryan. Now let's go to Washington."
Now let's replace.
Yeah, let's replace.
So to me, the funniest part about all of this is that people have heard that Paul Ryan is stepping down now, and they're like, "Well, can you do it now?" I mean, seriously, it's. And I mean, in all earnestness, people are like, because it's been on the headlines have been people have been demanding an expedited removal of Paul Ryan, or people have been asking Paul Ryan to leave quicker.
Hey, you
Take
don't gotta,
Ted Cruz with him.
You don't gotta finish out your 2 weeks. We promise we're gonna give you a good reference at your next job.
This is good.
Yeah, this is not on you. This is on us. We encourage you to go explore other opportunities.
No hate. We don't resent you.
Already wrote a letter of recommendation.
We got a cake.
Can I just say that I hope he follows the example of his predecessor, the previous speaker, John Boehner, who the very morning that Paul Ryan announced he would be leaving the House, John Boehner announced via tweet that his next career move since leaving his spot as the Speaker of the House is that he is joining in a partnership with a cannabis corporation
Yes.
to further the research of cannabis for use in medical situations.
Maybe
with-
like sex addiction or looking at Anthony's wiener.
John Boehner was a staunch opponent of legalization, and I have to say, that little orange dude just melted my heart yesterday.
Maybe it's because he
can
started
change.
using it.
Yeah, no, he's been out golfing. He's really been relaxing. He didn't go the corporate route. He might now. I mean, He's probably going to make a ton of money with the weed, but
He said, quote, over the last 10 or 15 years, the American people's attitudes have changed dramatically. I find myself in that same position.
he blamed the American people. He's like, hey, everybody else is doing it.
So basically what that means is my voters were against it, so I was against it, but now everybody's cool with it, so
I'm going to live my truth.
There's money in them thar plants.
I do not smoke marijuana. Yeah. I have smoked a lot of marijuana in my lifetime, probably more than most people should. And I can tell you, for those of you who can still do it, it's a wonderful thing. I don't hate.
I can I think John Boehner was always like 2 ticks away from being a decent human being. I bet this clicks some of those 2 ticks over.
Maybe we can just give it to the whole of the GOP.
I hope that he gets a hemp beanie and he just starts walking around in sandals and like shapeless pants that are held up by a hemp belt.
It really just warms my heart.
And just starts
Maybe
quoting
he's gluten-free
quoting Bob Marley posters like, "Hey man, can't live that negative way. You got to make way for the positive day, man."
Orrin Hatch would be awesome on weed.
You
know who would? The only one who
McCain.
wouldn't is not Ted Stevens. Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz would probably be Ted Cruz on any drug.
He would just keep doing more Simpsons voices, and
Right. And
we'd
he
have
would
to
just-
kill him.
He would just, I think he would kill. He's one of those that would be the demon in everybody's trip. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
totally.
Like the eyes and everything. Like he's one of those that if he ever did do drugs with a random group of people, they would kill him because they thought he was the demon.
You know,
So
like you said earlier, I have no dog in this race. I don't smoke pot. I don't do edibles. I'm sober as a ghost, but I don't.
are ghosts sober? That's a presumption.
Well, I'm as sober as I assume a ghost is, and I assume a ghost is sober. I don't have anything against legalization of marijuana. Like Michelle, I too have consumed probably more than most people should when it comes to weed. And in that regard, I used it recklessly and in an addictive manner like I did with alcohol or pills. But for the occasional smoker, like the occasional drinker, I personally see nothing wrong with pot. I've never seen a barroom brawl break out because people smoke too much weed. I've never argued with anybody while I was high. Now, that being said, and I don't know the science behind it, maybe Michelle does, maybe you do, but I start to call bullshit when people are like, pot cures cancer.
Yes. No, that is bullshit.
Pot was for my anxiety, and now it is down, and I can function like a human being. CBD, maybe. But you got to smoke weed to function. You have to be high in order to
it's
function.
actually-
That to me is a red flag.
No. For some people,
It's an effective way to manage anxiety. It's not a cure-all.
It depends on the person.
Okay.
I think it's really because for me, it made me significantly more paranoid. So I had to stop using it.
If I had ever smoked weed, I could say it would probably ramp up my anxiety as well.
That's
As I work at the prison.
I have a good friend of mine who's like, I don't even know that there's a good diagnosis for him, but he was always like super all over the place, very like constantly squirreling like anybody I've never seen. And
Are you talking about me?
no. So
Right here.
he ended up,
I can fucking hear you.
he was always getting high. He was always smoking pot and just like, he was like one of the most successful car salesmen that I've ever seen. I mean, like he would just go, he would toke, and then he would come out and you'd be like, yeah, man, you should really buy this Audi. I mean, if you can sell a fucking $65,000 car as well as he
Let's
could.
be honest. The Audi sells itself.
Yeah.
You know?
No,
It really
Corvette
does.
sells itself. You have to sell an Audi.
Well, good for him. I wish him success in that.
Yeah, he's still doing it.
In that. Well, no, I was talking about Boehner, but your friend
Yeah, him too.
Paul Ryan on weed, either Ted Cruz and Paul Ryan are still in the Punchable Faces
No, I
Club.
could see Paul Ryan kind of maybe being funny. I'm sure there's video of it somewhere that he paid off.
No, fuck that. Paul
But
Ryan's doing coke.
John McCain
Yeah.
is the one that I can't.
Oh, yeah. Mitch McConnell would be delightful, too, I think.
That's never a thing.
No, because he already talks like he's a cartoon turtle.
I want. Okay, so two things.
I think he would be funny if we were high.
I want John McCain
Fair
to get
enough.
high, and I want him to do it in his home state of Arizona with me, and we would stare out
I
over the
bet you
Grand
he
Canyon.
is.
I bet he's high right now.
And we would talk. Remember a road trip with Tom Green? Remember when the guy? Remember when he went outside and smoked with the old man and the
Tell
dog?
that bitch to go make me some pancakes.
I'll bet he'd be like that guy. I'll bet Paul Ryan does coke, and I'll bet he does coke with his buddies at the club. and I'll bet it gets violent, but you never hear about it. I'll bet Paul Ryan's a dick.
Oh, yeah. No, Paul Ryan is absolutely a dick. I don't even need to meet him to know that.
Yep.
I'll bet Paul Ryan's one of those guys that does the coke and then it's like, all right, we're fucking crushing it tonight. We're going to crush it so fucking hard tonight. Yeah, fuck you guys. Hit me in the face. Hit me in the motherfucking face. That'd be Paul Ryan.
Yeah.
Ted Cruz just sucks, like I said, no matter what. I think maybe if you get him high,
I bet he gets
demon seed-
amorous.
Do you think maybe I bet you he's gay if you get him high enough.
Who?
Ted Cruz.
I bet everybody's gay if you get them high enough.
No, Ian's friend tried to get him drunk enough, and even he was like, no, I'm good.
There was a note left for me in the morning. I remember almost nothing from the night, but the note said, it's true, 18 beers does not make you drunk, or does not make you gay. It's
Well, there we go.
well, we know where I stand
It
then.
was your
Thank you,
roommate,
science.
right?
No, it wasn't my roommate. It was my roommate's friend. Actually, it wasn't even my roommate's friend. It was my friend's like on again, off again boyfriend / friend. My roommate was also gay, and I think we were trying to set my roommate and him up. But I think this guy always kind of had a little crush on me.
You bring that out in some of the gay men that we've hung out with.
I think you and I are both a little bit, yeah.
Do you get hit on?
I trip a lot of people's gaydar.
So do I.
A lot. And then a lot of people think that I'm like sort of switchable.
Yeah,
That
no,
I'm- that
I
I'm
think that's
open to
I think
whatever.
people secretly think that Ian's like maybe 40% gay and he
Yeah.
doesn't know or something. You know
Yeah,
what I
a lot
mean?
of people
Like-
think I just don't understand my own sexuality. And that's fine.
I don't care.
I'm all right with
No,
that.
yeah, it's never bothered. It's just always been funny to me because there are people that it's like I can tell that they have like a crush on you, and it's just like I always
shake it
thought,
off. Shake it off. Ooh.
Don't ever do that again.
All right, Facebook.com/That's Delightful if you want to chime in there.
Hey, speaking of the Holocaust,
Oh wow, were we going to talk about that?
No comfortable way to transition to that. Hey, remember when millions of Jews were killed courtesy of Hitler?
So apparently people don't is the thing.
Right.
So
wow, we nailed that transition. Holy shit.
the current research is showing that millennials ages 18 to 34 do not have a full understanding or even really a good understanding of what the Holocaust was.
31% of Americans and 41% of millennials believe that 2 million or fewer Jews were killed in the Holocaust.
It was 6 million.
41% of Americans and 66% of millennials cannot say what Auschwitz was. 52% of Americans wrongly think Hitler came to power through force.
No. And Hitler was elected through a multi-party system. They had more than two parties, and the other parties were out of favor, and so he won, but like not. He wasn't popular. He just happened to win because of the other parties.
It was a shitty situation,
Yeah.
kind of like what we had going on. And, you know, Hitler had a plan from the beginning for quite a long time. He had a lot of resentments from the defeat in World War I. There was a lot of shit brewing in his head when he came to power that I don't think anybody really saw initially.
No, he was fucking crazy. I mean, so Hitler was smart enough to pull it off because it was his plan, and it's hard to do. But to successfully turn a country into monsters is really hard to do.
So-
and he did it.
Before we really kind of dig into this, and I'm a converted Jew, and so whenever stuff like this comes up, people look at me. I have a lot of sympathy for what happened in the Holocaust. I'm a convert. I don't have any family history with it. I know people that do. And on that level, I can't really relate. I can be angry about it. I think like anybody can be angry about it. How can somebody kill 6 million people just because you don't like their religion? It's disgusting.
I think you've also been fortunate, though, in a lot of ways because you were able to go to, what was it, Dachau?
I went to Dachau as an exchange student, which was very somber. You know, there's not a whole lot of talking there. You don't laugh around with your friends when you're 17 when you're at Dachau. You just don't.
So was Dachau one of the camps where people were murdered?
Dachau
It was a work
not
camp.
It was not an extermination camp. It was a work camp, and then you were moved from Dachau to an extermination camp. And we saw the Holocaust survivor at the State Theater in Modesto.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that.
Yeah, okay.
She was on her way to a death camp.
She worked in the crematorium at the work camp, burning all of the Jews that were slaughtered. And then she was being transferred to a death camp when she was able to escape off of the truck and run away. But I think she said her parents were still on that truck.
Yeah.
and they were slaughtered. And this all happened 2 days before the camps were liberated.
Wow.
So what was awful, like aside from that, where you really feel the impact when you're listening to a Holocaust survivor, because there are not that many left. When you feel the impact of that is when she was talking about, because she was housed near a crematorium. I don't think she worked in one, but she could hear the screaming of the children and the mothers before they were basically brought in and murdered. And she said that when she had her children, that was the hardest point for her, because when they would cry, it would bring it all back. And that's heavy. That's hard to listen to.
So let me ask you this. It's been over 70 years now since.
Has it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been over 70 years now. The millennials now are what, in their early 30s, late 20s, early 30s?
Yeah.
Okay. So this all happened a couple generations before them. Is this them just not being educated? Is this a rewriting of history? Is this something where over time...
I mean, it's really...
It's a really deep cuts to the education.
Well, I think there's anti-Semitism. There are there are people that are Holocaust deniers who actively, will deny that the Holocaust existed or that it's been embellished. And I think that this is another sort of insidious thing that isn't that. It's not active anti-Semitism. It's misinformation and ignorance. And it's a wake-up call for us to preserve our history, because it doesn't get passed down in the detail that it needs to unless we actively pass it down.
And this is arguably one of the biggest and worst human crises known to man. I mean, this is something that humbled an entire nation and really should have humbled the world. And we didn't learn from it, I can tell you that. But Germany did. And there's been a lot of reflection from them. So it's just really sad that we've taken it kind of goes back to when people say, segregation was a long time ago. Black people have had rights for years. No, the Civil Rights Act was passed in 1964, and the Voting Rights Act was passed 4 years later. The Holocaust happened in 1941, we entered the war in 1941, so it was happening before that. And my grandparents were born in that time. So, and they're still alive. This is a living history. It's not done yet.
But I think we're in sort of an unprecedented time. History was preserved through a couple of threads for most of recorded history. We had history books that were written usually by the people that won the wars, and you get things passed down generationally. But now we have this whole new technology where information is shared in all kinds of different ways. And what we're seeing is that truth has become much more relative than it ever was before. And all it takes is a little bit of misinformation mixed in with truth on the internet, and people don't trust their sources. It's hard to know what the real facts are. And I think the generation coming up right behind us has a much different relationship with objective truth than even we do. So we have to combat that, because there are truths. I mean, there are an exact number of people that were killed in the Holocaust. But the internet is going to make it much harder for people. I think people just kind of shrug and say, well, you have your truth, I have mine. This is what my website told me. And I don't know what the answer is, but I think it's going to be interesting to see how it works going forward.
I think it is. It's just a gigantic paradigm shift that, like you said, has to work itself out. Eventually, it's just going to be, how badly does it have to get before we do that?
I mean, what's the first place people go to? Is Wikipedia, and
No,
Wikipedia is. That's not the most accurate source, but that's people Google stuff, and the first hit that comes up on Google every time is Wikipedia.
And with Wikipedia, did you know that I put myself down as a notable alumni from Placer High School?
Nice,
because you can do that.
Right.
You can put.
You can put anything in there. Colbert used to put his viewers up to it, and they would change things in Wikipedia to be completely upside down false. But that's where a lot of people get their first.
So I would rather the Wikipedia thing, because they're at least at the end of Wikipedia on most of the web, for most of the information you can get. What am I doing?
I think he looked himself up on Wikipedia. We're moved on from the Holocaust. We're on to Ian's Wikipedia.
No. I just please do your thing. I'll save this for later, but I just to prove a point. Go ahead.
So I would rather the Wikipedia happen than Fox News, even at this point, because
Right.
Fox News doesn't check any of their sources and has proclaimed that, what was it, Project X?
The Matthew Broderick movie?
No, it was an asteroid or a planet that's supposed to be hurtling towards Earth, and April 23rd is going to be Judgment Day, and they've actually made that a headline. So,
Well, none of this matters anymore then.
Yeah, see, from Placer High School, notable alums included Clarence E. Bud Anderson, who was a retired officer in the Air Force and a triple ace in World War II. Jeff Blauser, who's a retired Major League Baseball player for the 1995 World Series champions, the Atlanta Braves. Stacy Dragula, who was an Olympic gold medalist in the pole vaulting in the 2000 Summer Olympics. And Ian Riley, radio personality.
nice.
I put that on there, and they never took it off. Now, the other high school I went to, Del Oro, I put myself on there as a notable alum, and they keep taking it off because they have like far more current notable alums. There's a guy named Randy Fasani I went to school with. He played football for the Panthers for a little bit, and somebody keeps a really close eye on that one because they keep taking it down. But on the Placer High School, they just don't give a fuck. You can put whatever on there, and it's been up for over a year now, I think. On the Del Oro one, they keep taking me off. Whatever. That's okay. All right. Facebook.com/That's Delightful. Let's move into what we find delightful this week. Who wants to go first? Because I'll double dip if you let me go.
I will too.
Why are you always double dipping? Go ahead.
I'm sorry I find things delightful. That's my cross to bear. I'm a delightful guy.
That's true.
Quit being delighted by shit, Ian.
First thing I find delightful, and we gave them a shout out last week, but they gave us this really huge shout out on their show. Spike Nesmith and the podcast Two Grumpy Critics. It's TOOO because there's actually 3 people on that show now. It's Paul, Spike, and John. Spike is from Scotland. I could listen to that guy read a phone book. But he's a really cool guy, and they gave us a really nice compliment on their show. And again, paulandspike.com is where you can find it. But they, at the end, talked about our chemistry on this show. And it was nice to hear from somebody, because Spike is also a radio guy. It was nice to hear somebody in the industry compliment our chemistry. And talk about how we're a funny show. And he said, Spike said, and God bless him for this, he said he doesn't listen to many podcasts. We're the one where he makes an appointment to listen to it. He listens to it in the car. He'll stop. He'll pause it when he gets out of the car and listen to it when he gets inside the house. And we're one of the few podcasts that he'll listen to start to finish. And he loves what we do. And to that, Spike, thank you very, very much. It's very kind of you.
He's the best.
Second thing I find delightful, and I think I've done this before, is the fucking flea market.
Right?
I love the flea market.
Oh, yes.
We had so
me
much
too.
fun there.
We had a blast at the flea market. I got quite possibly the second worst haircut of all time at the flea market.
I'm looking at it right now. It hasn't aged well.
It has not aged well.
It's poking out in funny places.
So I needed to get a haircut, and I joked with Michelle walking out the door, if they have haircuts at the flea market, I'm going to get one. And Michelle's like, good, you need a haircut. The first thing we see when we walk in is a sandwich board advertising a haircut in Spanish.
And waxing.
And waxing for $5. The haircut was $10. This was a $20 haircut, by the way. I paid $20 for this haircut, just so you know.
Why?
Because our friend Kelly felt the need to over-tip the woman who gave a shitty haircut.
Well, let's be fair. I received a serviceable haircut, and she was very lovely to me. And I got to speak Spanish. And it was so nice. It's not the best haircut I ever had, but when she found out I spoke Spanish, she was... Not everybody likes it when you start speaking Spanish to them if you don't obviously speak Spanish. Sometimes they think you're being presumptuous or a bit of an asshole. And when she found out I spoke Spanish, she was very gracious. And I enjoyed my time there.
So here's why my haircut is what it is. When we walked in, there was 2 women cutting hair. One was like mildly attractive, and one was my grandmother. And I thought to myself, okay, not that I think Kelly's going to be taken home, the woman that he met at the flea market hairstylist salon. But
Ian went into automatic wingman mode.
But I have no reason to take the woman on the left who's a little more attractive. I'm married, and I love my wife. Plus, maybe the older lady gets a better haircut. We'll find out. So this old... She did not give a better haircut. So when she's working the sides, I get a 3 on the side. Okay? When she's working the sides, she had to step down because her trimmers were so terrible. So she started at a 5, and she went 5, 4, 3. to get my hair down to the length that it's out on the sides. And it kept pulling my hair, and I kept telling her, and she would just kind of brush it off a little bit and then just go right back to it. She was going to get my hair down to a 3 no matter what it took, no matter how bad it hurt. So she just kept doing it. So Kelly was done. Kelly got his hair cut. He got his beard trimmed. He had a lengthy conversation in Spanish. And he was done like 15 minutes before I was because this lady couldn't cut my hair. And then when we're done, it's $10. I didn't have cash on me because we hadn't gone to the ATM yet. It's $10. And so Kelly tips this woman an extra $10.
I had already paid like halfway through your haircut. Like I didn't have change, and I didn't want to do the whole negotiation. I was like, you know what? This was really nice. I haven't gotten to speak Spanish in a while, at least non-prison Spanish. And I'm just gonna not get cash back. I'm just gonna tip him, and I assume Ian's haircut will be as serviceable as mine was. Turns out I was wrong.
So,
but I also made it clear to you that you were under no obligation to reimburse me for that tip.
So let me also be clear here. So Ian got a $10 flea market haircut that turned into $20, but what he could have done was taken that $10 and then the $6 that he used to purchase joke animal print bikini men's underwear.
Those were no joke.
We were getting there.
And he paid $6 for those. On top of the $10 haircut, he put the briefs on one time. I told him I never wanted to see that ever again in my life. And then we threw them away. So that $6 really could have been
What did I say as you were throwing that away?
$16 haircut.
What did I say as you were throwing that away?
You threw that away?
She was throwing it away. I said, best $6 joke ever.
Yes.
Because as
Those
soon
were
as
no
Kelly
joke.
dropped me
they
off,
were real in my heart.
as soon as Kelly dropped me off, he's talking to Michelle in the hallway, and first thing I did was went in the bathroom and took everything off and put those leopard print bikini bottoms on and came right back out. And I was like, "What's up? Is this what you're here for?"
He pulled a Will Ferrell and walked right out.
They were
beautiful.
awesome.
Not okay.
It was
also,
more than okay.
What I love about the flea market is I got a Light Bright. I got an original Light Bright that she tried to tell me was a brand new Light Bright. It is not a brand new Light Bright.
It's not.
It's sitting on our bookcase right now, but I am going to use it to make a That's Delightful sign. But I love Light Bright. Light Bright's the shit.
Yeah.
And I got one at the flea market. So, and I got a baked potato that it was bigger than any potato I've ever had in my entire life. So, I'm flea market happy this week.
What the fuck? That is a fist dildo.
It is a fist dildo.
Michelle, while you were talking about your leopard print underwear.
Is this what you find delightful this week?
On Wish.
That's
No.
on Wish?
Yeah, this is on Wish. That's why I was like, what is that?
Please do not purchase a dildo you found on Wish,
It's
please.
It's $21. That's too expensive. But they have it in black, and it's called the Flank.
The flank?
Yes, it's
I hate
the
this conversation.
C22 sex product fist dildo, extreme huge dildo.
I wouldn't describe that as a fist. It's more of a
Get
like the hand is.
realistic fist sex toy, big hand.
It looks like more of a. It's not balled up in a fist. It's
It's
more
like you're
set up
doing
for
a high five.
multi-digital penetration.
To me, it looked
Like
like
if you
it was
were
getting
putting
ready
three
to
fingers in.
the infancies of reaching out to shake somebody's hand.
Like
4 fingers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
or like
I don't know.
like if you're swimming, you cup your hand to go over. That's what it looks like.
Yeah, it does. You're right.
All right, so Michelle, what do you find delightful
You
this
can
week?
It's a little
manipulate them.
fisty.
Not the fist dildo, I can tell you that. Not
Why did you
because
look
I
that up then?
judge.
What were you doing?
Right?
It was,
That was so
just in my thing. Look,
ultra
see?
specific.
It's like next to this
So
shirt, you can
you're
get a
telling me
fist
when you
dildo.
open Wish, the first thing it thinks you want to see is a fist dildo.
No, the first thing I think it wants.
How
me
does
to see-
Facebook deliver ads to your page again?
Right?
Is it
It
based on
knows
your
what you like.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Go on.
What do you find
So-
delightful this week, Michelle?
I need to stop looking at your Wish page. I
Look,
don't need to
see,
know
it's
this about
nothing
you.
dirty aside from the fisting dildo, which has never been something I'm interested in. So
Until now.
now I don't remember what my delightful was because I got so distracted by that.
I can barely remember my name right now.
Oh, you know what I found delightful this week? So Kelly and I have been searching for little spots that we could maybe open a little private practice of our own. And
In addition
That
to your
sounds so
current duties,
dreamy.
right?
yes,
This isn't like leaving a job. It's like in addition to your job you already
no,
have.
no,
It's
no,
a
no.
common thing to,
yeah.
like, on your day off,
Right,
hang
he
out
has-
a shingle and see some.
we have separate our days off, so it's we want to have some semblance of normalcy. But so we found a spot today that I think we're really interested in, and that's going to be really cool. But what I find delightful, this is the long way to get to it. There's an app called the Wayfair app. I don't know if anybody's. I love Wayfair. Like, they've got good, nice quality furniture for a ridiculously low price. And so I was like, I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to have a ton of swag in the office.
I've got my Wayfair app right here.
Kelly's going to move the table that we podcast from into his office and be like, this is now my office desk.
That's so funny you should mention that. We were joking, like, all the things that we could do with our office on our days off. So we've all decided that he and I have decided that one of our rules is there will be no hanky-panky in that office.
That's right. I think, who was it that set up that? You set up
Me. I set up the rule. I emailed you and said, hey, this is a no.
Hold on. Can we stop? First of all, you're being selfish. Second of all,
why?
Second of all, are you guys going to have separate offices? Does Michelle have an office and Kelly has an office?
Yeah, there's good space.
So what do you care if Michelle and I have a romantic tryst in her office?
No, I care. I think it's actually against the law.
It could attract bears.
It could. Or the guy mentioned today that they've gotten rid of their homeless problem.
I've seen Dexter. I know how to lay down plastic.
As long as you bring a tarp, it's fair game.
Okay.
No.
Just not in my office.
Anyway.
This is going to be a part of the business plan.
All right, Stallins.
It's in the business plan. No hanky-panky. Self-love is negotiable.
So do you want me to get you the fisting dildo?
We're doing a really good commercial for our new private practice right now.
Do you want me to get you the fisting dildo?
I wasn't going to say it on the podcast, but I mean, as an office warming present, you could, I guess.
It looks like you can probably change the number of digits.
What, really?
It's like you can get like an amputee
I don't
one?
know. I can't even pretend.
What do you find delightful, Kelly?
I'm going to class this shit up. Are you guys ready?
Let's do it.
All right. Well, by class this shit up, I mean I'm going to nerd out for a minute, so bear with me. Have you guys seen a 2008 documentary called The King of Kong, Fistful of Quarters?
No, but when we're talking about fisting, what?
Okay, so this is a documentary. If you haven't seen it, some of you are cheering right now, and most of you are scratching your heads. It is about the world of competitive gaming, and it's about a class of nerds who grew up in the 80s who grew up competing for high scores on original arcade game cabinets. And this particular documentary follows two guys. One guy's name is Billy Mitchell, and the other guy's name is Steve Wiebe. And they both had competed for high scores on Donkey Kong Jr. And so there is an organization called Twin Galaxies that started in the 80s, and they've dubbed themselves the official trackers of high scores, and they've got a deal with Guinness, and so they record the actual high scores, they verify them. Long story short, the whole documentary has to do with this underdog named Steve Wiebe. He's a family man and a science teacher who decided he wanted to get the high score in Donkey Kong Jr. And the current record holder was this guy named Billy Mitchell, who's a hot sauce magnate. He has a mullet and a mustache and looks like a caveman child molester, basically. and he's kind of a dick. Like, that's sort of his personality. And so he had the high score, and the whole movie is Steve Wiebe trying desperately to pass up this high score, and he gets it. He records it and submits his videotape because he records himself doing it, and they review it and say, well, we got you on a technicality. And bottom line is Billy Mitchell was kind of the reigning champion and kept his high score. And what happened today was they just came out with a press release because Billy Mitchell is sort of an asshole in this movie, and Steve Wiebe is the lovable underdog. And we just found out today that Billy Mitchell's scores were overturned. It was determined that he cheated in his submission, so all of his high scores in both Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr.
What?
I'm just saying. He submitted videos that were always a little suspect and grainy, and it turns out he didn't use an original arcade cabinet. He used an emulator. What?
You don't fucking say.
I'm just saying the bottom line, you can get lost in the details. I think it matters, and it's neat. But bottom line is an asshole named Billy Mitchell today got his cheating scores taken away, and an underdog named Steve Wiebe got his belated justice served up nice and cold, and he got the
what
moral
was the
high
technicality that they got on him originally?
They were unable to verify that his arcade cabinet was an original arcade cabinet. They looked, and the original boards had been placed into a new cabinet, And basically, they could have verified it, but they said it's inconclusive whether this is an original cabinet. It could have been modified. We're talking about milliseconds here. It's a great documentary if you ever want to see it. I know your eyes are glazing over out there. They show the dedication it takes and the split-second timing to win a Donkey Kong Jr. or any of those old games. It all comes down to split-second timing, pattern memorization, etc. But Billy Mitchell throughout this movie bullies this guy, Steve Wiebe. Steve Wiebe, his wife is long-suffering and is kind of over this whole hobby that he has. And he spends like a lot of their money going to these conventions so he can perform in person. And Billy Mitchell like kind of bullies him and like sends his cronies out to distract him while he's playing. So the fact that Billy Mitchell got his score taken away.
What a dick.
So score 1 for the good guys, you guys. That's all I'm saying.
I just have a hard time thinking that this is real.
No, it's when you're playing Nintendo with your buddies and you're doing I don't know, Mario Brothers whatever, and you're playing 2-player and you can't go until they're dead. You'll get up, you'll be the asshole that walks in front of the TV for a minute. Oh, I'm sorry. Did that make you die?
It's shitty.
Guess it's my turn now. Guess it's time for Luigi to see what he can do on Mario Brothers.
So it's a nerdy world, even nerdier than I can really handle. But even if you don't like video games or mullets or hot sauce, the documentary
if you don't like
King
mullets,
of Kong.
there's something wrong with you.
That's true. King of Kong, A Fistful of Quarters. I highly recommend it. And the belated postscript to that movie is that Billy Mitchell got his comeuppance and is probably crying over a bottle of hot sauce tonight.
I'll check it out. For sure.
Super
that looks
good.
Amazing. All right. Facebook.com/That's Delightful. Also at DelightfulCast on Twitter. We are That's Delightful, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening to That's Delightful. Online at totallydelightfulstuff.com, facebook.com/That's Delightful, and on Twitter at That's Delightful1.